Hey guys, hope everybody's doing good out there today. Welcome back to the channel and thanks for tuning in, much appreciated. And today I'm going to give you guys sort of a little seminar, some tips and advice on what the bass do in October. Because this is a real transitional time of the year, and I'm sort of going to go over with you guys what I've learned about it over fishing for almost 50 different Octobers, sort of share all that info with you. But real quick, just want to remind you guys, it looks like sometime next week we're going to be, I can't believe we're going to be hitting 45,000 YouTube subscribers. And when we hit 45,000, we're going to be having a giveaway of cases of Bridgeford beef jerky, Seaguar fluorocarbon fishing line. All you have to do is to be entered for that giveaway is to subscribe to the channel. If you're subscribed, you're good to go. If you haven't subscribed and watching the videos, I'd invite you to hit that subscribe button. Much appreciated. Okay, let's talk a little bit about October, what the bass are doing in October. And, obviously it depends on what part of the country that you're in, because the bass, if you guys live up in New York, your smallmouth bass up on Lake Champlain are going to be doing something different than if some guys fishing Lake Okeechobee in Florida. So for the sake of not having this video last for about 5 hours, and covering every single body of water, I'm gonna focus exclusively on man-made impoundments in this particular video for October. And for the most part, most man-made impoundments, it doesn't really matter their size. I consider the average lake to be anywhere between, say, 10 to 50,000 acres across the country. Some of the major reservoirs is you have a diversity of basically habitats in the lake. I mean, any man-made lake out there, you have a lower end, a middle end, and the upper end, which is where the rivers come in for the most part. And every one of those parts of the lake is a different environment. You've got different types of cover, you got different type of bank angles, you got different type of water clarities. The fish behave differently in every one of those. So specifically what the bass do in October is most of the time it's signaled, it's sort of like we're in October now, so the first part of October and into October you first start seeing your significant frontal systems come through. And these are frontal systems that have some type of a major impact on the temperatures of the air and the water both. And like here in Missouri, we've had summer hanging on here. It's been 85, 90 degrees the last week a lot of times here in Missouri. So it's sort of like still summer, but inevitably when October rolls around, you're going to have a series of a couple of fronts coming through that starts to drop that water temperature, a little bit gradually. And it's pretty much consistent throughout the month of October. And what happens is when you have this combination of dropping water temperatures, you have shorter daylight hours, 2 minutes a day. It's getting less daylight, 2 minutes every single day. And a lot of times in October, you have falling water, because a lot of the lakes across the country, they have the lakes at summer pool, which summer pool is actually the highest pool level that they keep of lakes. They keep lakes almost to the point where there's flooded cover all throughout the summer, and they start to gradually pull it down in October. So you've got this combination of falling water temperatures, shorter daylight hours, and falling water levels. All those things are going to impact the bass and what they do. So basically the overall gist of this is what the bass do in October is they do a lot of different things, because there's several different populations of bass in a lake that all have an individualistic personality to what they do. For example, I'm going to break this up in the lower end, midsection, and the upper end of the lake as far as what bass are doing in October. The lower end of the lake, in most lakes across the country, that's where your clearest water is going to be. And the average lake is going to have anywhere between 2 to 10 feet or more visibility on the lower end of the lake, depending on where you're at. If you're at a lake like Lake Eufaula in Alabama, you may have 2 foot of visibility on the lower end of the lake. If you're at a lake like Lake Lanier, you may have 10 foot of visibility. So it's dependent upon that. And what happens is that water clarity will gradually start to decrease as you get up the lake. So, and as you get to the river, it gets even more stained. So for the most part, what the fish do in October in the lower end of the lake is their combination of some shallow fish and suspended fish and deep fish. You've got all three depending upon the clarity of the water. You're always going to have a population of shallow fish throughout the lake. That population may be bigger on some lakes, it may be smaller than others, but if you're fishing the lower end of the lake, there's always going to be those fish that are starting to cruise in the back in the coves, hunting for perch, staying shallow the whole time. And then the other populations of fish that you have are largely centered around main and secondary points on the lake. And when those fish start to transition into October, you'll have bass that are suspended and on the bottom in the same points. You may have some bass that are hanging out on the point ends in 35 foot of water on the bottom, and then you may have some fish that are out suspended chasing shad in 50 feet of water way off the point. So there's a lot of different things going on. As you get up the lake, what the bass start doing in October a little bit more is you have more bass starting to move shallow. Not all of them. You still have some bass that are out on those deeper point ends and sides, but you have a larger population of those fish that are using whatever shallow available cover is there. It could be riprap, it could be docks, it could be laydowns, it could be rocky banks, whatever like that. You'll notice as you start to get to the mid portion of the lake that you will still have suspended fish, but the numbers will be less than they are down the lake, almost in half, So what happens is those fish start to get a little bit more scattered out. You've got fewer fish suspended, you've got fewer fish in deeper water, you've got more fish starting to just spread out over whatever shallow cover is available out there. And as you get up the lake to the river arms, the upper creek arms like that, you start to lose those population of suspended bass, and you start to lose those deeper fish too. Normally, as you get on the upper end of the lake starts to flatten out a little bit. You've got more flats, and you'll have a steep side of the bank, and those fish start to relate more to shoreline targets, shallow targets. The majority of the bass are going to be shallow, less than probably 7 or 8 feet. They're going to be setting up on rocky banks, on points, docks, laydowns, trees, whatever cover, grass, whatever covers in the lake like that. But you're not going to have the option. So what happens is, in the overall picture of this, in October, when all this stuff starts clicking like it is right now, you've got more options on the lower end of the lake as far as how to catch these fish. And as you gradually get up the lake, farther up the lake, those options narrow down into more shallow water patterns. So a lot of it just depends. So, when you ask them, what am I going to do with this information? A lot of it just depends on how you like to fish and what part of the lake you like to fish. You may live in a city that you're closer to go to the lower end of the lake, so you like fishing down there, or you may live in around a town that it's closer for you to go to the river arm. So a lot of it just depends on where you're at and how you like to fish. You may like to throw a shallow crankbait all the time. You may hate live scope and don't want any part of that. So you have those options in the river. Then you may have a little bit of both. You may like to dabble in deep water a little bit. You may like to fish shallow. Those options will exist on the mid part of the lake. And then if you just like to fish deep and you like to stare at that live scope and you like to down imaging and you like to spend all your time idling around instead of fishing, you got a lot of options on the lower end of the lake to do so. So that's just an overview, guys, of October. Like I said, that's a generality foundation. There's no concrete yes or no answers in fishing. That's the thing that a lot of people have a hard time with, is they want to pick up and read a book and say, this is where they're going to be, here. Bass fishing's not like that, guys. It's all over the place. There's no guarantees. The bass do something that you don't expect all the time, but you have to have a place to start at, a place to begin with, and then you can modify your approach once you at least have a starting point. But anyway, I hope that gives you guys some starting points. I think it'll help out a little bit. And I'm getting ready to leave for Smith Lake to the Bassmaster Open this weekend, so I'll keep you guys updated on how my practice is going. I'll film it and everything, and we'll tune in later. See you.